We can't afford World War III. So are you a peacemaker? Welcome to Peace Through Trade, where we're a global community of people interested in supporting humanity and the planet and achieving, over time, world peace through trade. Blockchain is an amazing tool that we can use together to do that. So right now, many of you are aware, if you're watching this, of the conflict going on in Iran and the impact now in only 20 days or so that's already having in the world. Oil prices are shooting up across America, Europe, and in Southeast Asia, with even some concerns that entire nations could run out now as a result of this conflict in the Strait of Hormuz, like Thailand. Elon Musk points out how dire this consequence is on X, and there's quite a bit of commentary right now going on regarding the Strait of Hormuz and the long-term impact that this situation is having now and will continue to have for months, the following months coming this year. And so at Peace Through Trade, we obviously are big believers that humanity can work together, that we can help uplift each other, that we can do more trade with each other, and we can do good and help the environment thrive at the same time. Interestingly enough, in the past 2-ish weeks, Peace Through Trade is finally something that has started to take off and go viral. On Instagram specifically, our profile grew tremendously this year. We haven't really been going public that much, but we've already grown to about 9,000 plus followers on Instagram. But from those 9,000 followers, the Peace Through Trade Instagram channel has more than 12 million views in the past approximately 2 weeks. So it's incredible. It's super unfortunate, and our thoughts and prayers are with all that are involved in the Middle Eastern conflict going on right now, that a peaceful, safe resolution can come to this situation as soon as possible. But like we've titled this live, can we really even afford World War III? Is that an option? The answer to that is no. Einstein's famously quoted for saying, "I know not the weapons that will be used to fight World War III, but I do know that World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones." His quote was impactful back then because he realized that as technology progresses for us, that we could achieve such destruction, we could cause such devastation throughout the planet, we could effectively rule ourselves completely back to the Stone Age. So we really believe in the movement of world peace, and we think, based on the science and based on history, and whether you're looking at the World Bank, the United Nations, but the science shows that the more trade can enter in an area even already in conflict, it can help reduce that conflict. The more trade that can move in to uplift the quality of life for people that are in an area or a part of the world that is right on the brink of going into conflict, it can actually prevent that conflict. And everyone knows that when people are just trying to survive for the day, they can't afford to care about the environment. If they're hungry and they need to eat, how could they afford to care about what damage they're doing or is happening to the planet around them, which we all need to thrive? So Peace Through Trade is our global movement. Our community, we refer to as peacemakers. If you think that's you, if you want to help humanity and the planet, and you're interested in learning more about blockchain and AI and how we together, planet-wide, can use those to help uplift everyone, then you're in the right place. Give us a follow, give us a like, and check out our other social media profiles as well. We've got a Discord community that's growing. We've got our Instagram account and profile that's growing. And we're just trying to make humanitarian and sustainability projects, causes, and missions great again. On X. Okay, so there we go. Okay, so you guys can see my screen here. So this morning, I'm going to move my mic so you guys can hear me okay. So this morning I woke up to this meme by Elon, and I think memes, everyone loves memes because they're hilarious. Humor helps alleviate the stress of the situation. And I thought this was hilarious because long range strategic business plan, he's got AI optimization, data analytics, the neural network, cloud storage, macro outlook. You're really thinking through everything. Blue sky thinking. So you're being positive and you're really getting ahead of everything. A vision well into 2040, the Strait of Hormuz. This tiny little, the whole thing could come toppling down because of just one little trade route. So what is the Strait of Hormuz? For those of you that hadn't checked it out, I pulled up a few little media pieces here that we can share with you quickly.
If Iran blocks the Strait of Hormuz, what impact will it have on the entire world, and which country will be affected the most? First, let's understand what the Strait of Hormuz actually is. It is a small area of just 33 kilometers located between Iran, Oman, and the UAE. It is a narrow sea passage through which almost 20% of the world's oil supply flows, nearly 17 million barrels every day. This oil comes from 8 countries located in the Persian Gulf, including Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE for the United Arab Emirates. Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and Qatar, 90% of their oil exports pass through this narrow route to reach the rest of the world. If Iran blocks the Strait of Hormuz, following countries will suffer the most damage. First is India, because it imports 85% of its oil, and 60% of that comes from Middle Eastern countries like Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and the UAE. Fuel prices in India would skyrocket, and as a result, everything related to oil and all industries would face severe disruption. Industries could shut down, there would be job losses, and the economy would be severely affected. The second most affected country would be China. China is the world's largest oil importer, bringing in 10 million barrels of oil every day. 40% of China's oil imports pass through this Strait of Hormuz. Although China has built oil pipelines with Russia and Central Asia, they don't even fulfill 20% of its energy needs. So, if the Strait of Hormuz is blocked, China's economy could suffer a massive blow, and if China's economy is shaken, its effects will be felt all over the world. The third most affected country would be Japan, as it imports 90% of its oil, and 75% of that passes through the Strait of Hormuz. The fourth most affected country would be Saudi Arabia. 80 to 90% of Saudi Arabia's oil goes to the rest of the world through Strait of Hormuz, while only 10% goes to Europe via its Red Sea coastline. So if this choke point is blocked, Saudi Arabia's economy will be heavily impacted. Imagine that a country suddenly loses 80 to 90% of its revenue. What would happen to it? Something similar could happen to Saudi Arabia. There's also a high chance that Saudi Arabia might send in its military to reopen the route, and that could make the situation even worse. Fifth is Pakistan, which gets about 90% of its oil through the Strait of Hormuz. This oil meets around 27% of the country's energy needs. So if the route is blocked, prices in Pakistan could rise sharply. But there's an interesting twist. Since Pakistan shares a border with Iran, and several government reports suggest that 35% of Pakistan's diesel comes unofficially from Iran. So if the strait is blocked, Pakistan might turn to Iran for oil, either quietly or through an official deal. Next in line is the UAE, because as nearly as 72% of its oil export.
Okay, well, I think that's a good video that breaks down for us in general what's going on. And we get it already from that video. The impact is enormous with just the Strait of Hormuz. Now, that becomes a big deal. So once again, to Elon's little image here, good work, Elon, if you're watching this. It's incredibly meaningful when conflict occurs. So not only is there, the loss of human life, not only is it it would be very hard to measure the full scope of negative impact to the environment and the planet and how long lasting that is from conflict like this. Bombs dropping, water supplies, unfortunately being negatively affected, the water table, soil quality, food growth, but trade. The biggest problem that video was just showing us was that as a result of this conflict, one of the greatest global negative impacts that this conflict can have is on trade. And it's funny because I think Elon also shared, or I saw another post that someone else shared, where it was one of the lines in one of the Star Wars opening text roles when the text was coming on in Star Wars, where it said that the Galactic Federation was compromising over taxation of galactic trade routes, because that's the premise that would potentially need to be overruled and causes this galactic rebellion, because when trade slows down, the impacts are felt everywhere. Inflation, the economies of entire nations, all those nations adding up, it can have catastrophic consequences. I found some other videos as well on the pretty much the exact same lines. Now, there are people working on stabilizing this. And what was really interesting, though, I thought this one particular post I found on Instagram was really interesting. And we have to verify this. So none of this is financial advice. Do your own research. Let's verify it together as a team. But what was really interesting is this particular post I saw on Instagram stated that Iran had just threatened potentially to harm ships passing through the Strait of Hormuz. Not even necessarily that they were confirmed to have laid mines or that they even had the threat of doing so. But according to this post, they're actually saying that London, so Lloyd's of London, and the insurers realize the threat is so high now for the loss of these vessels, which are not inexpensive. This post goes on to estimate here that one super tanker that's carrying oil could have a value of about $100 million. Seems reasonable. And the insurance costs, let's say and these probably are approximations. I don't want to verify this math, but let's just use it as rough estimations. Whereas now that a ship could very likely be blown up, the insurance companies need to increase their premiums because they want to be able to cover their premiums, but the cost goes way up and the statistics of risk obviously are higher. So they basically said that the London insurance industry quadrupled the rates of insurance for the super tankers that are carrying oil or goods or supplies in and out of the Strait of Hormuz, which made it quite literally unaffordable. And those ships are basically just waiting on one side or the other of the strait, hoping that the conflict could die down or that their insurance prices will be improved. So this is going to be a short live today because we got a lot going on here behind the scenes with Peace Through Trade. We're predominantly in stealth mode. So if you're interested in learning more and checking out the community, make sure to like us, follow our profiles here. We're going to start doing private Zooms for the most interested and actively engaged peacemakers as well in the near future. And on those private Zooms, not publicly, we'll share with you some of the things we're working on in stealth mode that we're really excited about. This is a zero hype project. We've put in 5+ years. We're working on things that we genuinely believe are going to help uplift humanity and the planet. And we're working on things that are of long-term value. So that's our goal. We've got a mobile app ready to come soon. Other things coming. Stay tuned for the private Zooms so you can learn more of the details that we've got. A lot of the great long-term value that we've already achieved that we're not yet sharing publicly. We're going to wait until regulatory conditions and market timing make sense to do our ICO. At that time, we'll probably just follow the best practices of promoting and sharing all the good news as best we can for about a 90-day period before the officially announced ICO date. So if you want to learn more, if you're interested, or most of you watching this already know more through our private circles, and you're probably more familiar with the project than we can even share publicly right now. But I just wanted to let you guys know that if you have already purchased our pre-ICO coin, regulations and laws apply, obviously, you know which territories you can and cannot, then you're here to follow along with the updates, and make sure you don't miss the private Zooms, which will be shared, the links when they happen, the dates and times, in our Discord channel and our official Telegram. Make sure you follow the official channels. Now, what was really interesting about this was how it dramatically impacts trade, right? Now, also this post went on to say that actually when an Iranian drone hit this Qatar Energy liquid nitrogen gas facility, they declared force majeure, which means they're no longer legally obligated to uphold or fulfill any major contracts they have for liquid nitrogen gas for the world that they're providing it to. And that's mostly similarly to the video that we just watched, going to impact Europe and Asia and Southeast Asia. Liquid nitrogen gas is the predominant ingredient needed in fertilizer. So what this post was saying that was really, really interesting is that, I'll get over here for you just to show you guys this. Okay, so natural gas combined with ammonia converted to urea is the most widely used fertilizer on Earth. I'll skip ahead here for this post to share with you the spoiler, which is that they're now saying that 33% of globally traded fertilizer transits the Strait of Hormuz. So without fertilizer, if major farming centers require more fertilizer to grow the food needed for the coming summer and fall months this year, let's say in Europe and Asia, even if the conflict was to end relatively shortly after the time and date of this live, the impacts, not only for oil, not only for gas, not only on revenue and economies for the regions that we just showed in that previous video, but also food and food supply could be dramatically negatively impacted. So the title of this video is World War III, We Can't Afford It, right? Or why we can't afford World War III. We can't afford World War III, and that's one of the bigger reasons why people are very concerned about this conflict in Iran is because, you know, Iran and the BRICS nations Iran has been to date heavily aligned with Russia and with China and with Brazil. They were working on their own BRICS currency, trying to get away from the American dollar. And so the real concern around World War III is at any moment could Russia and or China enter this conflict, and then we could very well have World War III. That doesn't feel great because Russia and China and America and the Western allies and NATO and the G7 nations all have nuclear warheads. Goes back to Einstein's quote, no good for anyone, not good for the planet. And in 2026, it really does feel, I think if you're watching this and if you're interested in the sustainability posts that we're sharing, they're fun to watch. Sometimes the consequences, like some of these overfishing videos we've seen, the Mexico cartel incidents over the past month, the horrible situation happening in Iran, are pretty devastating and they're pretty traumatic and they're very shocking. But I feel like as humanity, we feel here at Peace Through Trade that we're waking up, that we're realizing that these invisible borders, although they're real and we respect obviously national sovereignty, but that humanity can, and it sort of feels like we're about to become more connected and more cooperative and more collaborative than ever before. Social media has gotten to this point where there's tons of bot traffic and you can see the clear propaganda and extremely unrealistic and inaccurate bias by most news stations in most nations. I talk to people internationally weekly, and most of them are completely aware that their news is not serving them, that there's a bias for whatever reason, whoever's fueling that. But they realize that we are coming together and we're looking at core, meaningful issues that impact each other, and that we're starting to realize we can actually band together, that we can work together, that we can communicate together to overcome these issues. We don't have to be completely and totally dependent only on our elected leaders, but we as citizens of the world can actually do things to overcome these issues. And we're starting to realize more than ever before how critically important they are. I don't know if you had seen our Peace of Trade channel in the last 2 weeks on Instagram, just as an example. This was another thing that Thailand was panicking the citizenry heading to the fuel stations. They heard that there was only 2 months of fuel left. More recently, the president of that country had asked people, because their electrical grid in Thailand is so dependent upon oil-based and natural gas-based fuel generation of that electricity. More recently, just a few days ago, this week, the president of Thailand asked people to conserve electricity and no longer take the elevator and physically walk up and down stairs, even if they live in high-rise apartment buildings, because this Strait of Hormuz and this Iran conflict was so dramatically impacting that nation. They were concerned they were going to completely run out of fuel and electricity. And electricity, you might be watching this if you're younger, sitting at home thinking, well, that's not that big of a deal. But elderly people, people connected to electronics in hospitals for life support or that have just undergone surgery. If a country goes black, many can die instantly without power. So, but I was going to show you here the Peace Through Trade account, which was really interesting. So it's not surprising. Well, it's very gratifying, actually. We've been talking about peace through trade. We can achieve world peace. Blockchain and AI are mediums now of new technology that we can use together. So if you looked a little deeper and checked out our website, our white papers, you'll see the solutions that we already as a project have built and are coming out with to empower world peace through trade that we can work on together. Well, the last few weeks, it's pretty cool that other people are really now taking note because we can't afford World War III. What do I need to do? Unfortunately, myself and the team were on a phone call with a wonderful young woman in Dubai. She helps Integris mission-driven blockchain projects like Peace Through Trade to raise capital. And she was in Dubai and she was trapped in Dubai. And at that time, there were drones and missiles landing in the city and the airports were closed. And she couldn't get a flight out because everyone was scrambling, except for those with private jets, to get out of the country. And her response was, I heard of you, heard about the technology development that you guys have done. It is significant. And right now, more than ever, I'm in. World peace through trade. This is the absolute perfect timing where unfortunately none of us want to see a global conflict pop off like this one now that the United States has initiated to prevent nuclear weaponry in Iran. And Trump has mentioned it, which I know myself and others were praying for to help, hopefully, these people that have been living under this regime. And as we see this happening, it's obviously horrific. None of us want to see it happening. None of us want to recognize the negative impact. None of us want to see it escalate to World War III, which we can't afford. Humanity's done. The planet would probably survive, hopefully, but our species would be decimated and would go back in time. Hundreds of years of progress, more than likely. So it's so cool and fulfilling to see here on our Instagram channel. We only have 9,400 followers, but look at the views we're getting now from this 9,400 followers in the past few weeks. 381,000 views. I'll just show this really quickly. 69,000, 59,000, from 9,000 followers, 2 million views. This is crazy. 1.5 million views. Toxic rain. The problem is this infrastructure, the negative impact, sustainability. It's going to go on for quite some time. 221,000 views, 135,000 views, 245,000 views, 1.9 million views, 114,000, 225, 7.4 million. So more than 12 million views in the past 2 weeks alone. So it just goes to show that you care, actually. You do care about what's happening and what we can do about it as a global community for humanity and the planet. And there are solutions. We're not saying that anything's absolutely guaranteed to succeed, but like anything that's meaningful, that uplifts the quality of life of our fellow men and women around the world, no matter what religion they're a part of, no matter what country they were born into, when it truly helps our fellow man and woman, it's inspiring. It's a noble cause. And together we can work towards getting solutions out there so that they work towards the eventual goal of world peace through trade, which I think blockchain and AI is that saving grace for humanity. And it couldn't be happening at a more opportune time. So I thought that was really interesting that this LNG manufacturing could very well, according to this post, impact grocery shelves in Europe and Asia and Southeast Asia by September, regardless now of how much longer this conflict goes on for as a result of the damage that has already been done. So what are we going to do about it? Leave a comment below. What do you think's happening? How do we create solutions now that can help work towards preventing World War III? What can we do? What does blockchain have to do with that? How does sustainability fall into that as well? Well, the simple premise is that people all over the world need access to finance, and we all have products or services or value that we could and would exchange with each other if we only had the access that we could trust. Right now, if you and I wanted to do business with each other, let's say I'm originally Canadian, so let's say I was in Canada and I wanted to do it with Pakistan or someone in Pakistan, it's very difficult. I can wire money, but it's not as easy. It's not convenient. I don't really trust sending that large of an amount of money. And it's very difficult to do reasonable day-to-day even transactions. So with Peace Through Trade, if you check out our site, check out our Layer 2 white paper, we're planning on rolling forward this year our global Peace Through Trade streaming marketplace. That's a place where we'll be able to hop in, play around with it. We're going to be privately inviting, private invite only, initially the first free beta users. We got to make sure it's working properly. But what's really cool is it will be a compliant, regulated, ISO 2022 compliant place where we can meet each other, where we can understand what each other has to offer, and we'll be able to instantaneously, safely, and securely with Peace Through Trade wallet and the coin transact with each other. And the vision there is if enough of us can get in there, maybe we'll find projects we really want to support. Maybe we'll have sustainability projects we want to help donate funds to. And it's really just going to be predominantly the focus of humanitarian and sustainability projects and humans all over the world that are focused on real meaningful things. And we can instantaneously transact with each other. Anyone's welcome to join, of course, but that is going to be our predominant focus for that. And it's just so cool that if I wanted to send money to someone in Ghana, once again, I don't have a way. I can't necessarily, my credit card's not going to let me process on their website or on their mobile app in Ghana, but Peace Through Trade would. And the greater these lines, if you can imagine them, that we can create of commerce over the whole world, the more we can uplift the quality of life for each other. And we can step by step move towards preventing situations like this as a species through solutions like Peace Through Trade from happening ever again. And it is possible. I know it's a long way off right now as we're recording this live and there's a huge conflict in Iran. It could pop off to World War III. It probably won't. And all of us hope and pray that it doesn't, and that the conflict does not continue to escalate, and that the damage is not so monumentally catastrophic that it doesn't last for decades, both for the people of Iran, the surrounding area, and beyond. But the truth is, unfortunately, that these things can have a greater negative impact on our fellow human family members, the environment, and infrastructure and trade than we could ever imagine. It's hard to even understand it and project it, even with AI, in the moment while we're living through it. So the Strait of Hormuz is a big deal. The consequences and impact are a big deal. And now more than ever, we all recognize we can't afford World War III. So what are the solutions? What are our prospective life rafts that we could take? What are the meaningful projects and communities that we could join that are really sincerely focused on a solution? We feel that here at Peace Through Trade together, we're already doing that. And we're excited to continue on this journey with you. Stay tuned to Future X Lives. If you're already a member of the Peacemaker Global Community and you're following us here on X or Instagram or wherever you're tuning in and watching this live from, we're happy to have you here. And we appreciate you checking out the posts, liking them, sharing them, reposting them. It's all we can do at this point to help on social media create awareness and highlight how critically important some of these things are. Some of our previous posts that went viral that I didn't share were dramatically negatively impactful things happening on the environment. Also, that we can't afford. AI water usage, the pollution of that water, the alarming rate that it's happening, power usage at an unsustainable rate, overfishing. The issues will continue. And one at a time, we don't have to feel overwhelmed by them. We just have to focus one at a time at the issues that we care about, that are meaningful to us. And then the coolest thing ever is together we can and will make that change. We can. We'll have the means to transact and trust each other. We'll have the means to create further awareness on important issues. And we can see the real world use case, the real world impact together. So that's pretty cool. That's all I have time for today. Thanks, guys, for being here. Arai Beckman, founding partner of Peace Through Trade. And feel free to leave any thoughts or comments below. If there's any other issues that you guys want us to comment on, and if there's any further details that you want to make sure that you get on Peace Through Trade, make sure to check out our Linktree. Make sure to check out our Telegram and Discord. And we're going to be doing private Zooms here coming up. And we'll share with you more details behind the scenes of the long-term value that we've been working on. We've been doing this for 5 years now. Before we brought this project to market, not in a rush, but we'll share with you the long-term value that we've already got completed, that we're ready to start sharing with the world as soon as we're ready to announce our ICO date. Okay? and start promoting it from there. God bless, be well. Our thoughts and prayers are with all the Americans, the Iranians, everyone throughout the world that's suffering. We want to help this situation resolve.